Fuck you, Dean. Just in time. Alrighty. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Draw Stream number 8. I am the Michael Kimasabi, the man with the plan from the land down under, and if you don't know, I successfully funded a crowdfunding comic company, Man Dead, White and Blue. Fantastic book, 60 pages, full color. CIA metahumans trying to stop the outbreak of war in the Middle East. Very timely, considering I wrote it about 10 years ago. And one of the criteria that I set for getting the book funded was that everyone gets a sketch card. You get a sketch card. You get a sketch card. Everybody gets a sketch card. And unfortunately, I've sold 250 copies of the book. 200 of those are physical, which means there's 200 sketch cards that I need to draw. And I've currently drawn about 60. So expect a few more of these over the coming days. G'day, Replicant. Thanks for being here. My boy, Dean James, as always. The bear, the myth, the legend. Top bloke. If you want something drawn and drawn well, hit him up because this guy knows what he is doing. He is what we call in Australia an absolute dead set ripper legend. Let's get some light on the situation. All right, so I usually take suggestions from the chat. Unless you guys don't have a suggestion straight off the bat, I thought I might just draw Earth 3 Owlman. But I actually kind of thought I'd do the real retro one from back in the days. The Silver Age one with the full-on owl mask on top of his head, because it's just the worst design ever. So I'm going to look for a picture of that, and maybe you guys can think about what I could draw next, or maybe you'll come up with something that I like even better, and I'll just go with that. And I'm going to put some music on for me because it's just that generation, isn't it? There he is. Old Al hurt himself. I think it's going to be hard to find a decent picture of him. You type in Silver Age and you get like Spider-Man covers. It's like that's not at all I want. Like I suspected, it's the same two panels from Silver Age comics just over and over and over again. There's not a whole lot of variety, but that's okay. I just need a reference picture. I can do the rest. All right. And stunningly, the best reference picture is actually a toy, isn't it? Isn't that crazy how often that's the case? I've heard people using, you can see it sometimes, you see it when people are drawing, you can see they've used a toy as reference for the characters they're drawing. You can hear those birds, can you? Oh, they're annoying. I was saying to my wife, they're nature's alarm clock. I'm disappointed that you guys can hear. No, they're birds from outside. I'm disappointed you can hear that. I was rather hoping you couldn't, because I find them frustrating. I can't imagine how annoying it's got to be to tune in and then have to listen to that. Have we got any other suggestions, or are you guys good with Silver Age Owlman? I suppose in retrospect, I don't really have the time to debate this sort of thing too much. I just kind of got to get in and get it done, don't I? At this point, looks like I got about 100 in Psychomen. No, I haven't. That'd be... Oh, have I? I drew something really Kirby-esque. I'd have to find the deck of cards and see if... I'm trying to draw a character that's really... We might just have a quick recap of what I have drawn. So we've got Dream. It was Machine Man. That's what I drew, a Machine Man in a Kirby style. Black Power Ranger. I can't remember. Somebody suggested the dude. I think it's a 2099 character. I looked it up. Old mate from the Imperial Guard. Can't remember his name. Penitent one from Blasphemous. The Mask. I forgot about all of these. Mr. Squiggle. Ron Jeremy. That one's got to be my favorite, I reckon. Aggro from Aggro's Cartoon Connection. Space Ghost. Austin Powers. Conan. The Watcher's a good one, Dean. Lucius Malfoy. The Real Leon Kennedy. Macho Man. Going Sky. Mike Hammer. Abbott. Jura. Mad Monk, Adam West Batman, still my favorite. All Might, Doc Savage, Man of Bronze, Brock Sampson, the Phantom. Jeez, these are pretty good. Green Ranger, Roger Ramjet, Super Ted, Silhouette by the Diaz Brothers, Greatest American Hero, Blue Falcon, Captain Caveman. These are pretty good. Banana Man, Solomon Kane, Porter, my Australian brethren, who that is, Darth Vader, Baron from Kozor, E.T., Elmo, Exo-Man War, Duckman, a shark character from DC, I can't remember what they're called, Mr. Cogburn, Calder Fruiter, how are we today, gentlemen? Hollow Knight, Slimer, Peacemaker, Mr. Stay Puft the Marshmallow Man, my boy Stingray, Monkey Magic, Venom, Gladiator, Chud, Embrace, Tech Priest from 40k, Raphael, Cable. There's an unfinished Bane picture I've got to get around to getting done as well. So, George Stanley, yeah, I could do that. All right, so we've got Cowardly Lion. There's some good suggestions here. By the Dark Magician, Dean, do you mean the bloke out of the Dark Tower, or do you mean something else? But there's some good suggestions here, so we can definitely make these. I think I've got a good little list here. Thanks for the chat. Hail to the chat. I'll say g'day to a few cool people because there's some cool people here. Crazy Mad's here. G'day, Crazy Mad. B-Rose is here. Derek's here. G'day, Derek. The Quaff, the man, the myth, the legend. Draw Dean. Yeah. Indie Wrestling Aces. Thanks, one and all, for being here. I appreciate you guys. And Replicant, again, I said g'day to you at the beginning, but you're a good dude, and I'm happy to say Dark. I don't know what that is, team. I don't know what that is. I was born in 1981, Dean. You can't even comprehend my power. All right, so I'm going to start off with Silver Age Owlman. Where's that music? I put on some music a minute ago. There we go. Oh, yeah. That's chill. That's chill. That's a chill vibe. All right. Send me a decent picture of you, Dean. Not one with your tongue sticking out, and I'll draw you. I'll add you to the list. All right, let's get some Owlman happening. Let me have a look at my screen, see what you guys can see. Make sure it's too legit to quit. There we go. That looks good. Alrighty. Let's do this shoot. So I don't know if there's anybody here that hasn't been to at least one of these before. I mean, usually I just don't break my internet. I usually just ramble on for 3 or 4 hours while I draw these. I was nearly late. Dean was teasing me about being late, but I nearly was. Normally the missus is out of here by 7, and I thought 7:30 gives me plenty of time to get ready and get into it. And I was going to set up a print on my 3D printer. Got me an Anycubic Photon Mono X. It is it's so good, 4K. It looks so good. I've just been printing, not non-stop printing. I haven't printed in like a day, but I'm printing, on and off fairly frequently. But it takes a little bit of time to get a print plate set up. You've got to get it all positioned correctly and do your settings, and you've got to slice it and load it, make sure the resin's mixed properly and all that business. There's a bit of work to it. So I was going to do that, and I didn't get a chance to because the missus didn't get out of here till like 7:26. So I turned the computer on and sat down, and Dean's like, oh, he's going to be late again. So I had to get on, totally unprepared. Good thing I'm a professional. Man, our man is he's not even jack. Like this picture I'm looking at him here, reference material, he's got like a baggy shirt. Like he's literally got, fault. Like he's the opposite of Batman. He's really dumb, slow, and not fit. They didn't even bother drawing in his undies. They've just added them through color. Even his pants are baggy. That's atrocious. Grant Morrison did such a good job revitalizing these characters when he did Earth 2. He made them, brought them back, but he updated them and made them part of the wider DC universe to the point where they're known now. They're well known. And this has got me some new felt pens, some thin little Sharpies. Because if you guys remember last time, like a year ago, last time I did this, I was running out, so I should be good. I should be good for some time now. So let's go with an outline. I don't often just go straight in with the outline, but this is such a simple one to get warmed up with. I was thinking today about the way that Dan Frager does that, like the outline thing. That's pretty impressive. Just outlines the picture and then goes in and puts the detail in. No underdrawing, nothing like that. That's a real skill. I do think Earth 2 contributed to, like, DC's got a real problem with just being mean. It's just cruel. It's harsh. I think a big part of it was Identity Crisis, setting the tone for the next 20 years. And, Morrison's JLA, as much as I like it, I think contributed to that. Tower of Babel and that sort of thing. And all the different crises and that, the bit where Batman says to Superman, the last time you inspired anybody, you were dead. I'm like, what? That's these guys. They can disagree, but they shouldn't be enemies. They should be friends. That Batman Superman series, Ed McGuinness, I don't know if Joe Kelly wrote it, Jeff Lowell wrote it, I think. Dr. Manhattan's a good one. G'day, Corey. Thanks for turning up, mate. Yeah, I'd be happy to draw Dr. Manhattan. Maybe I need to zoom. I'll zoom this out a bit because I think you guys are going to... Yeah, that's right. But look, I don't know. Everybody was freaked out like Dr. Manhattan was really well hung in the movie. I thought he was just like an average blue guy. Honestly, I don't know. Probably shouldn't go there. Yeah, try and avoid the topic of the state of comics. Because I think most people here are going to be in agreement, and it doesn't end well. It's not pretty. I don't think any of us are particularly happy with the way that it's going. Speaking of being not happy, I still haven't heard back from my colorist on those last 10 pages. I tell you what, boys. Campaign wrapped up around sometime in May, I think. And now here we are in October, and I'm still waiting for the colors. See, there's a Quaff gets it. He said he thought everyone was saying it's a bit small. Yeah, there's I don't know. I saw a lot of people online, and they're acting like it was a big deal. I'm like, he just seems like a regular dude to me. That's not anything impressive. Because I went to art school, so I've seen more penises than probably anybody else in the chat here. Because every week you do life drawing, and they're all cyclists. I don't know what it is with cyclists. Blue boner. Everybody knows blue boners are the best boners. I don't know what it was about cyclists, but every male model that we had come through the life drawing rooms and everything. I thought I opened a packet of these. I guess not. This is going to feel good. There was a lot of gay kids in art school. G'day, Hex. Oh, I'm all right with it, Corey. I actually did a bit of the life modeling myself after the fact. After I finished there, I'm not shy, but it was a lot of cyclist dudes were really keen just to, they weren't shy. They weren't shy about getting out there and doing some poses. A chance of a lifetime, but they dropped a ball or two. That's still not particularly zoomed out, is it? I zoomed that out as far as it would go. That's as far as it goes. I don't know what's up. Maybe I can move it back a bit. There we go. So, you guys be able to see it. I'm just conscious of the fact that sometimes, well, Dean, what are you saying about me? Because I'm an art student. I was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, crikey. Time flies. Well, Dean, maybe it's art students from Melbourne, Victoria area. Maybe that's. I imagine that's probably all you've got to go on. It could be because let's be honest, Melbourne's kind of the woke capital of It's funny because Sydney has the Gay Pride Parade every year, but Melbourne's the wokest one of all. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the wokest of them all? It's Melbourne, boys. I feel like I want to get stuff spread all over the place. This is peer pressure. Dean shaming me for being not late, for being on time. I was on time, Dean. Dropped out of animation after we spent the whole day in class watching what? I suppose that's the other thing too, is when I went to art school, it was literally 20 years ago, and everybody was like this drug addict street creature or this ancient grizzled art veteran. There was really no in between. There wasn't a lot of space for. I think I've told the story before. The painting teacher, Michael Bell, you can look him up. He's a practicing artist in the Newcastle Hunter area. He used to go around with a tin of black paint, and he'd go up to the painting that you're working on your canvas, and he'd ask you what was your favorite part, and you'd tell him whatever your favorite part was, and he'd get the black paint and he'd paint over top of it, and you just have to cope. He didn't do that in like your final year or whatever, in like the first, because it's a 4-year course, 3-year course. It's 3-year course. So in the first year, you do that sort of thing. You didn't do that thing when you're like working on your thesis for the last, big exhibition or whatever. That'd be a prick move. But early on, he's trying to get you to not be precious. I got to agree with Corey and Dean. I actually really, I give it shit, but I really did like, I've been to Melbourne maybe a half a dozen times. I used to have a friend that lived there, and I'd go visit, and it's a cool place. There's heaps of galleries, cafes. I mean, they're a bit funny with their pots and pints, but they sure can make a good chicken parma. Unfortunately, it's gone super woke. I haven't been there for probably a decade now. It's sad how the mighty have fallen. I mean, you could always tell I remember I was walking with my friend down the street, and somebody had written, like F Tony Abbott, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I think Tony's doing an all right job for what it is, But it's a bit like the right and the left in America. People would say that about Tony Abbott. So what don't you like about him? Oh, he's a fascist. Okay, what's he done specifically? Pick a policy. And they'd probably say like the immigration policy, where if you're caught coming into Australia illegally, you get sent back, but before you get sent back, you're recorded, so you can never come to the country ever again, even if it's with a visa, even if it's legally, even if you go through like the process to become a citizen. They go, oh no, you tried to come in last year or the year before, you're banned for life. And they did that to try and deter people, because we had this thing with boat people coming over, and there'd be dozens of people on a boat. And the Australian, I don't know, whatever our version of the Coast Guard is, would have to like threaten to shoot them to get them to go away. Like, and there's all these people just coming over in a boat trying to get to Australia. So I think old Tone's government was the one that put that in, and it was pretty successful. The number of fatalities, boat people trying to come over and stuff was. But people say, Tony Abbott's a fascist because he put that policy in place, a policy that literally saved lives. I don't know, dude didn't seem so bad to me. You guys remember that time that he ate an onion on TV? He's a bit of a larrikin, old Tony was. He's one of the few that's speaking up about stuff that's happening now. I think maybe what it was is Tony wasn't part of the New World Order, wasn't part of the global agenda. So he got kicked out. He got moved along. All right, we got some Our Man happening. That was a pretty simple one. I don't know. Oh, man, I don't even know what number I'm up to. I'll number them later. The irony that many of us will be getting on a boat to leave. Not me, Dean. I'm going to stay and fight. This is Maestraya. All right, let's go with the watch. Dean, have you sent me a picture of you DMs to draw? So I would argue that drawing Watcher and drawing Stan Lee is the same thing. The watches. I don't like the weird sort of Stan Lee worship the normies do. Bugs me. I mean, the dude was one of a kind, and he set the standard, and he changed the game, no doubt. Like, it's not unwarranted, but it's this weird sort of thing where they don't really know anything else, so they just sort of wasn't it Yang Gang? What's his name? Andrew Yang, and he was saying, "This who's your favorite character?" He goes, "Oh, it's Spider-Man because he's from New York." And who's your favorite comic book artist? He said it's Stan Lee, and it's just like, that's pretty cringe. If I was going to draw a Watcher, I should draw the kick-ass old Kirby version. That'd be the way to go. You know, and Warren Ellis's, I can't remember what it was called. It's like Bad End sort of thing. It's like all the Marvel characters dying in horrible ways. Galactus is dead before he gets here. Cyclops' eyes blew out when he first used his optic blast. Professor X took over America using his telepathy to become the president. All sorts of horrible stuff like that. The Watcher's dead. Spider-Man get bit by the spider, and it poisoned him and killed him, gave him like spider cancer and shit. And he just went through and found a way to ruin and destroy every single character. And I just don't understand. I don't know. But I had the same thing about Marvel Zombies. I never read it, but I hated the idea of Marvel Zombies. The idea that, you know, they're all dead and eaten, and then awful parodies of themselves. Could be, Corey, could be. I find all that stuff, all those sort of, and Warren Ellis did something similar again in a JLA Planetary team up, where Planetary was it's weird though, the Planetary organization was the bad guys, which they aren't in the main story, but he had them be the bad guys, and Clark Kent, Bruce Wayne, and Diana of Themyscira was these subversives trying to undo the control, the global elite like control and monopoly that the planetary organization had over the world. Pretty much what we've got going on now, but it had planetary logos all over it, and you know, killed off all the characters. It's just mean. It's just cruel. I don't like seeing heroes be brought low. I like seeing them challenged and having them overcome that, but I don't like seeing them, you know, being made like they're making fun of it. That whole sort of tongue in cheek. I don't like Bratz. Have you ever seen that Bratz comic about sidekicks and about heroes need sidekick for marketing purposes and stuff? But they're all these expendable little twinks. It's just mean. Mean is what it is. Mean and ugly. I don't see the point in it. Comics should be fun. Even when they're heavy and dire, and Spider-Man's got that big weight on him, he's trying to break free. You know, that classic page, which is a bit heavy-handed on the dialogue these days. But I mean, it's a product of its times. Booty Juice is here. Incredibly talented dude, Booty Juice. I don't know how busy he is, but I mean, he did a commission for me, so. Check him out if you want some work done. There's some great. Same with Corey Barton. He did fantastic color work on the commission him and his brother put together for me. Actually, I got the commission and I got it colored by my colorist, and I wasn't happy with the result. And then Corey stepped in, and he in record time too. In record time, he managed to put this coloring job together, and it just blew me away. Like, he really knows how to handle his brother's line work. I mean, there's a bunch of really talented dudes in the chat here. If anybody's after work, cover, whatever, pinups, you know, I think part of the company man's success was having these pinups that of different styles, but the characters were all clearly who they were meant to be, you know. And I think that's when you've got a strong visual style, a strong visual design, when you can say, yeah, it's done in a completely different style to what I'm used to seeing. However, I can clearly recognize it as this character or that character. And if you can't, then maybe you need to rethink your designs. But there's not many heroes that, you know, not many heroes that can be said, especially the classic ones. But, you know, sometimes you look at someone and you go, gee, that character looks a lot like the Darkness, a lot like Spawn. You're like, yeah, you know, there's going to be some overlap. Well, you haven't sent me a picture of you yet, have you, Dean? You got to send me a picture of you. I'll draw a picture of you. And that's something that Dean and I worked really hard on with the Sinner, was trying to get him away from looking like Batman, because Batman set the standard for, that masked vigilante with the cape and everything. We didn't want the silhouette. A friend who used to work in game design, I remember us playing The Division, and he's talking, well, we're all playing The Division, we're having like a multiplayer, and he's saying how well designed the enemies were, because each one, you can tell who they are from a distance, and you need to be able to do that. If you see a shape in the distance and you can't tell that it's one of your enemies, the designer of the game has failed. You need to be able to say that's clearly from this group or that group, because you might have objectives or missions related to that or related to other ones, and you want to avoid these guys. And they got me thinking a lot about silhouettes and how some people do concept work in silhouette, and that if you can look at the outline without any of the detail in it and clearly tell who that character is, or in the case of a video game, what faction they're from, you're doing all right. Like Batman's very clear who he is. Spider-Man, not so much. However, you can put him in a pose that will make it clear who he is through the silhouette. It's like who's that Pokemon, but for comic book characters. Hey, my boy 6-Scale Combat's here. Napalm Brothers currently funding. Go check it out. It is the most sexy, gonzo, over-the-top, counterculture, underground comic, post-Nam era. I love it. I love everything about it. Bloom is actually the first book I ever did a review on, and it just set a high bar. And Angel, the female, she's not a protagonist, but she's not really a support character either. And the way that 6-Scale draws women, I tell you what, I don't simp or anything, but more Angel, please, brother, more Angel. I just can't get enough of the way he draws that woman. I did a review on the second book, and I had to put little Kimosabi faces over her, all the bits and pieces, because she was just too risque for prime time. She was one of the 7 words you can't say on television. Dude knows what he's doing. He makes good comic books. We've sort of had vague little sort of hinted conversations about maybe doing a book together in the future. I'd really like that. He's just good. Yeah. No. I've said before, nobody's doing in comics what 6-Scale's doing in his books. So if you haven't seen the Napalm Brothers, go check it out. I picked up the all-in-one bundle, because I've had them digitally, but I've never had them physically. So this way I'm going to get all 3 issues, because this is the end of the story. So you get all 3 issues this time. You can only draw thick women's. That's the only women's worth drawing, brother. Saw some dude on Twitter the other day saying big titties are overrated and small titties are underrated. I'm like, that's an unfollow right there, my man. Don't be bringing the heresy into my timeline. All these young people just learning about the thick. I actually remember the exact, I don't remember the date or the time, but I remember the exact instant that I learned about the thick, and it changed me forever, brothers. There was no going back. I was a changed man. I was probably about 13 years old, and I still remember the day, the very instant that I became aware of thick. And gee, I'm glad I did. G'day, Jace. Thanks for showing up. And Jason was noticeably absent from our last Comics Mate stream. And as he mentioned in the comments, he goes, the first one you guys have ever actually talked about comics as opposed to cringe, I suppose. And he missed out on it. And that was a lot of fun. We were taking CG characters and trying to sort of debate where they would go in the mainstream if you were to place them into another comic book universe, either as a publisher or as like what characters would they interact with. And it seemed to be pretty popular. People seemed to like that. I had a good time. And I felt like I got to really flex on with my comic book knowledge of mainstream stuff. I noticed there's quite a few of the CG books I had no idea who the creators were, or I was confusing one book for another. It just feels like CG had like a lot of werewolf books for a while there. A lot of like War Party, Sovereign Wolf, Viking Wolf, Bonds, I think, whatever Bonds is. I don't know. Like I'm not into, I think I've told this story before. I'm not into like animal anthro type even werewolves. Like I don't rate them. I'd rather just be a straight up human. And the story that I told was when I was a kid, growing up with Ninja Turtles. I thought if you ever had the toy, I never had the toy, but Mondo Gecko is like this lizard man, on a skateboard. And I thought I was like, 10. I thought it was like the coolest design ever. I don't know why. I thought like this lizard dude with a backwards cap and a skateboard was the coolest thing ever. I didn't marry the woman that introduced me to Thick Dean, but I married a thick woman. And then, you sort of, it's Tuesday and you think Ninja Turtles are cool, and it's a Wednesday and you hit puberty and you notice women. And I'm just like, well, when you do that, you're thinking about women, you're thinking about sex and stuff, and you don't want to be thinking about strange lizard men. So I don't, it's like, I don't like to have food around while I'm having sex or looking at anything sexy, because I don't like mixing the two sensations, the flavor and the sight. You can't be eating burritos while you're watching a swimsuit catalog photo shoot or some shit. Like it messes with my senses. And the same sort of thing. Like it's just no, you don't want to be. I think the people who are into furries and stuff continued liking their anthro stuff when they got into when their sexuality emerged. And they like confuse the two. And I just ever since then I only really like human characters. I don't play D&D. I don't play as dwarves. I don't play as elves. Human only, Final Destination. If it's not human, and even in tabletop gaming and stuff like that, the stories that I write, like as soon as you put like elves are gay, as soon as you put elves in, I'm like, nah, that's gay. You can make horrible, awful sort of savage elves or really elite vampiric elves. That are cruel and facetious and that sort of thing as a foil. But even still, I'd rather just have a different race of humans. Conan did it well. He didn't need to have... This pen can't seriously be running out already. I've only just bought the bloody thing. Unbelievable. Yeah, I don't get the I could eat a burrito looking at swimsuit mag. Well, I'm just saying I can't do it, brother. That's just synesthetic, where the senses get mixed up. I don't like that. I don't like crossing the senses. My brain's like, I'm thinking sexy thoughts. What's food doing here? It's not food time. Food time and sexy time are completely different. But if that, I remember that Seinfeld episode, remember that one with George, is like, that's good tip, Dean. Never get the pen from the top or the front of the stack, because everybody in the store's already used it and had to go, especially like Office Works and that, where they let you practice they let you have a test run with the pen sort of thing first, see if you like the color and that. Yeah, there's a whole comic about people stealing pens, wasn't there? Remember that Seinfeld episode where George was like having sex and then he'd pop out and have like a mouthful of a sandwich and go back in? I'm still haunted. My dreams are still haunted by... I don't actually dream. I think I've talked about that before too. I'm sure I dream. I just don't remember it. I never remember my dreams, which is... I guess I don't know what I'm missing out on then is sort of the thing, It's like people... it must be awful not being able to dream. I don't know. It's like asking somebody, is it awful being blind? They don't know. If they don't know, they don't know. Matt Murdock knows, but everybody else doesn't know. I couldn't eat a burrito watching a Hannibal or serial. Yeah, so similar sort of thing. There's sensations and overlap there that you just don't want to have going on. You don't want to be, privy to or part of or whatever. So that's come out nice. I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I left that. I think that's can't sweat. What? Dean's got a stronger stomach. Not much he couldn't eat in front of. Anyway, that whole thing is why I don't rate like werewolf books and stuff, because it's the whole like what's like furries. It's like, have they never owned a pet? Like animals stink. My dog gets a bath once a month from the mobile dog groomers sort of thing, and it still smells like dog. You go to they got like little farms, like farms that you go and visit with the kids, and you do like feed the animals and that sort of thing. There's one about an hour from here, and they got not tigers, but they got all, like crocodiles. Like you go in, they got crocodiles and shit. Like it's pretty good. It's like a zoo, but a farm, and you can feed the ducks and stuff. But they got some pretty wild animals there as well. It's good for a visit, especially if you got kids. But the place stinks, man. It reeks of animals. And there you go, the watcher. I don't mind, you know, the smell of a farm or whatever. But how do you equate that with an erection? I just don't know. I just don't get these furries, man. Dogs be eating poop. Just saying, exactly right. Furries aren't allowed to own a pet. That's a good point. And furry suits stink. I have no doubt. Well, who says food time and sexy time have to be separate? Well, if you're doing sexy time, Dean, you shouldn't be eating food. You'd be eating something else. And I don't want to be mixing those two things. Jason's notoriously quiet. He must be repulsed by what's going on. Let's have a look in the chat, see who else we talked about drawing, since I'm sure Dean hasn't sent me a picture of himself yet. Dr. Manhattan, we're talking about drawing. Okay. That's a good one. Funny draw Dr. Manhattan right after the Watcher. I think there's some overlap there, some thematic overlap between characters. In the dream I was having, someone brought me an Alex Becker video on VHS. See, he's like Jason speaking. He's speaking New Zealand. I speak English. I don't know what he's. I type in Dr. Manhattan, look for reference picture. Like I know what he looks like, but just with the symbol in the eyes and everything. And the first picture is the one from that Watchmen TV show, where, like, if you look at Dr. Manhattan in the movie, he just looks like a dude. Like he looks like almost a non. He kind of almost looks Indian, like from the Indian nation, India. You know. He doesn't really look like any one. Even in the comics, I'm looking at a picture of him in the comic drawn by Dave Gibbons. He doesn't look like he has a particular race or ethnicity. He's very, very neutral. But in the Watchmen TV show, they tried very, very, very hard to be like, look how black this guy is. This guy is the blackest Dr. Manhattan. He's so clearly black. Yeah, right. Like it's not an agenda. He's just, and you can see his eyeballs and everything and his teeth. It just is a trip. It looks really weird. We draw a werewolf. I hate werewolves. What are you doing to me? And now there's cosplay of just like naked dudes running around painted blue. SpongeBob after a lobotomy. Is that any different to SpongeBob before a lobotomy? Ask them the real questions. I think I know why there's no. And who's going to want a picture of Dr. Manhattan sent in the mail with their comic with this completely average blue dong? Why is it, there's a reason there's no good pictures of Dr. Manhattan for reference is because nobody wants to have a picture with his junk. And it's not a problem if you've got to look at a dick. It's a problem if you've got to look at a dick and you enjoy it. All right, have a look for your picture, Dean, then we'll come back to Dr. Manhattan since there's no decent pictures. But anyway, he sent me the cartoon picture of himself, not a real picture. All right then, Dean. All right. Chris Hansen's here, the hero we need. Not all heroes wear capes. But Chris is here to make sure that the chat stays clean, stays PG. Which, after that whole furry thing, is picture of me has to be sent to someone else. Nah, Dean, you're getting this. Nobody else wants it. Same thing Kimisabi told himself in life drawing class. On wrench, so I could beat mute Dean every so often. Dean, do you even have a wrench? So I don't know. These, live streams where I've been drawing are the first time I've ever really. He's unmutable. There you go. I thought so. It's the only time I've really done any live stream type stuff. So normally it's on Dean's channel where I'm the one with the wrench. So I haven't really put much thought into. I mean, really, I give literally everybody a wrench so that, or you give nobody a wrench and then you don't have any problems either. Chris Hansen will take the Dean drawing. All right, Chris. Did you back the book though, Chris? That's the real question, brother. You have to tell me your backer number. Spam some codes or. Yeah, you guys should spam projects in the chat. But you might as well. I don't see why not. Have a wrench and so does Chris Hansen. I've got my priorities straight. Dean, are you able to wrench someone since you've been wrenched, or is that something only I can do? Dean looking like a Rick and Morty refugee right now. It's funny because for ages, like at least a year, Dean was like, oh yeah, like I look just like my avatar picture. When you see me, it's going to be exactly the same. Like, whatever. But he really does. He really does look just like this avatar picture that he sent me. Jason doesn't have a wrench either. I'm all over the place. Mistakes were made. People have regrets. Six says he'd abuse his wrench status. Well, I'd expect nothing less, brother. I was only, again, last night while I was drying the dishes, thinking about how this is my safe space, this little narcissistic little stream where it's just me talking and nobody can hurt my feelings, not even Corey with his accusations of challenging my heterosexuality. I think the best way to respond to that is, yes, he does have giant eyes. It's terrifying. Oh, B-Ro's got to be wrenched in case Fizz turns up. But what I say to Corey is, I can't be gay. I've seen too many penises to be gay. Checkmate. You give him wee bias, degenerate weebery. He does seem to know a lot about anime and stuff, though. I mean, not B-Rose level. No, that logic is unapproachable. Corey, it's rock solid. You see enough penises, you can't help but be straight. That a few people DM me and ask me how things are going in Australia, if I'm all right, if I'm doing all right, which I appreciate. It's pretty chill here in New South Wales. We don't have a whole lot of crazy shit happening. It's where Dean is at the worst stuff. Dean and the Barton brothers, and I think what's his name? Bancroft. He's from Melbourne too. So that sounds really bad. I couldn't remember his name. I could remember his first name, but I couldn't remember his last name. I've been on the dude's show like 4 times. I can't even blame it being early. It's 8:15. Corey's managed to avoid getting bashed so far, which is great. Really, really glad to hear that, mate. I want to add extra details to it, but I want to stick to what's just on the page. You know, like I want to put a little thing under his lip here but there's not one on the picture, so I'm going to avoid that. I am surprised we haven't seen Dean on camera for a while, though. He's like, "Oh, I have to hook it back up, guys. Okay, do it." Yeah, no, I'll totally have it hooked up for next time. It's been like a month. So right now, all I've got to do is just sign into somewhere when I go in, and it's a bit of a game, like which superhero alter ego I use when I sign in this time. Peter Parker, Clark Kent, Richard Rider. They don't check. And this pen has seriously just died. It came out of a packet, so it's not even like what Dean was saying about it being the... Seems to be working okay on the page. I think it just doesn't like these cards because they're kind of glossy. That's a good point. Dean's saying you don't want too many details on it because he animates these. So if you have too much detail, it's going to make it even more difficult for him to animate, which is not fair because that's a big job. And I was going to say, quite frankly, his little comics mate shorts are hilarious, but I'm talking in most of them, so that sounds kind of narcissistic. But I do think I'm pretty funny. You guys have heard me crack myself up on here a few times. I'll say something that I think's funny, and I'll just laugh for half an hour. I really don't want to Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker does not represent me. I think you predate him, Dean. I think if anything, if anything, they owe you royalties. Like they're riffing really, really hard on your design of you. I mean, you choose to dress this way. It's got to be at least part way your responsibility. The person who gets this one, they're like, what is this? Who is this guy? I think anybody that's on here will recognize Dean, though. He's got that same optimism. All right, Dean James. YouTube's just now giving me a notification that I'm live. Nice work, YouTube. Now, I wasn't finding much in the way of Dr. Manhattan. So somebody got another character. Who else is in? It's right up the top here. No, it's just stuff about like not eating food while having sex and how Dr. Manhattan's penis wasn't particularly impressive. But, again, when you've seen enough of them, who should I draw, lads? Well, look, I couldn't get Dr. Manhattan. I'll just try and draw him without a reference. I mean, I should draw the one from the TV show. With the you got that massive dome. He said this. I feel like they exaggerated on purpose. I never watched the show. I downloaded it, but I decided not to watch it after all. I don't know. I think there's probably elements in there I wouldn't mind. Psychomen, that's right. Yeah, I'll do that one next. Replicant. What do I rate? Penises. Just my own. I just saying, Jason, having been in art school, I've seen more than my fair share. And I maintain that if you see enough penises, you can't help but be a straight man. Because the idea being it turns you straight because it's not something you really want to spend a lot of time looking at. My boy D-Wags is here. If there's any man who's not a coward, it's D-Wags. You need to storm a French fort with nothing but an empty musket and a bent bayonet, D-Wags is your man. No coward. Now, should I draw Dr. Manhattan's penis or should I just put pants on? My issue with it is that if somebody gets this in the mail, that, you know, if I was thinking I was getting a serious art card, like a sketch card, and then I got like Dr. Manhattan penis card, I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be happy is all I'm saying. But I certainly don't want anybody to accuse me of being a coward. Let's just leave the wang until later on. I'm a bit worried about this pen, honestly. Okay. It's decided it's going to show up. It's going to turn up. It's going to do its job. So I don't know. I don't know if I watched that Watchmen show. I think it'll probably make me cross with this race baiting. I've moved past being bemused and offended to just angry that I've got to see it all the time. There's a time there I was like for real, that's the hill you want to die on? And then I was angry because it was just so blatant and so wrong and demonized the wrong people. And now I'm just at the point where I'm like, again, I got to look at this again. I can't just, oh, you're not entertained? I just want to be entertained. Why can't I just be entertained, people? No wonder we're all making our own books. Borat man, Keeney. People saying no cowards. They think I should avow the plow. Yeah, I don't know if that works. Also don't know what I want to do with that other arm. My instinct's to put it with his hand on his hip, but that's like the least Dr. Manhattan pose of all time. Not going to bother seeing the 007 movie. Dean's going to entertain us. Dr. Manhattan doesn't have nipples, does he? I think that's one thing he didn't reconstitute was his nipples. All right, so look, if I'm going to draw the wang, for starters, I don't want to get strategically placed. Darren's going to smoke my rock for me. Thanks, brother. The hero we need. Take him on for the team. He does have nipples, according to Dean, who would notice such things. If I'm going to draw the wang, somebody here that's backed the book has to commit to taking the Dr. Manhattan sketch card, because I don't want to be giving it to some random and then, you know, getting mad about that, and then it's this whole scandal that I sent them dick pics. So there's somebody here that's willing to commit to their sketch card being the Dr. Manhattan sketch card, as opposed to just some random one out of the pile. There's one or two people that had really good reason to get a specific one. My boy Hockey's getting the Colt Condifruta one because that was his suggestion, and as an Australian, he's one of the few that I actually know who. Jockstrap. So much for no cowards, Dean. Although Dean does a good point in terms of I don't have a whole lot of time to get 140 cards drawn. Yeah, so like I was saying, campaign finished in May and it's October. I'm still waiting for the colours. I'm not happy, lads. I expected to have it out months ahead of time, and now, you know, because of the COVID, because of the coof, the whole campaign's been set back, and if I don't get them soon, like I'm worried we actually can end up being late. Wouldn't be any more than a month late at the most, but even still. I feel like if you can't do the job, the colorist should say, look, I'm too crook, I'm not going to get it done in time. You know, here's your money back, and here's somebody else I know who could finish the job, sort of thing. But you know, maybe I should have done that. Maybe I should have said, look, mate, it's been, 3 months, I haven't got the rest of the colors off you. I'm just going to go with someone else. Hope you get better. I don't know. Jason says he might just draw a dick and send it out at random. Anyway, hashtag no cowards. He doesn't even have a campaign to do it. He's just going to do it for the hell of it. Larrikins. Bloody Kiwis are absolute larrikins. Yeah, the colorist is just taking his sweet, sweet time getting the last, like, I'm just after the last 10 pages. I've been sitting on them, like, waiting for them for, like, July, August. It's taking a long, long time to get these done. And everything else is ready to go. Every time somebody says, how's it going with the book? I'm like, still waiting for those colors. It's killing me because we were so far ahead of time. I don't know. It's the last 10 pages, which admittedly is this, huge fight scene. So I can understand how it's taking a while. He 3 weeks ago, he said, I'll have it next week. And then a week later, I'll have it next week, So 3 weeks in a row, he's been telling me, yeah, brother, yeah, I'll get it to you next week. And it hasn't happened. And I keep thinking, surely he's going to do it this time, And I also keep thinking, well, if I do it myself or if I hire Corey here to do it. Yeah, Derek, something to keep in mind, brother. If I get Corey here to do it, because he's an absolute consummate professional, I could hit him up and we could negotiate something if he had time, space, etc., whatever. And if he didn't, that's okay. I'd still love him anyway. No pressure, Corey. It's not even just paying for 2 sets of colors. It's the fact that if I get Corey started and he's like, I'll have it for you by, let's say he said, have it for you by next week. That's optimistic for 10 pages. And then my colorist, who I'm not naming for once because I'm shitting on him, so I won't name him even if you know who he is. He turns up with the colors and then I've like, you know what I mean? I get someone else to do it and then he turns up the next day with the colors. I'm like, okay. Although Corey, Corey, I'll DM you and ask you something. And I'm disappointed because we worked really hard to make sure that we had everything ready to go with the campaign and all the art was ready and got the shipping and everything handled. And here we are. I know he got the COVID. He got the COVID, got over it. His missus got the COVID. She got over it. And then they both got both shots, and both times they got the shots, they were crook for a month each. So, you think he'd learn, wouldn't you? You think after he's had it, he's got that natural immunity, 27 times more efficient than any vaccine, and yet he goes and gets the jab. I don't understand that. So, I understand that he's been crook, but at some point you just got to say, hey, Lee, sorry, man, we're so sick over here. There's just no way I'm going to get this done. Yeah, some updates would be good, Corey, just to let me know. That he is still on it, because right now I don't know for sure if I've got anything. And I'll be honest, some of the pages he sent me last time, the 10 before this, weren't up to his usual standard. They were a little flat. And there's this fantastic scene where Ramjet's fighting Rocket at super speed. So it's like a super speed battle. And I wanted speed lines, electricity, and effects. And he just gave me like this really bland gradient. I'm like, I'm going to have to tweak this myself, I've had to do that on a few pages. I've had to go back and tweak some stuff that I just didn't think was quite up to standard, which I can do, but I shouldn't have to. I'm not very good at hitting up, somebody I'm working with and saying, oh, I don't like that. Can you do that better? Because I can't, it's a bit cheeky because I can't do it. So to say, hey, can you do it better? I don't know. But then it's just your money, So there's Dr. Manhattan. And we talk about Psychomen next, which, what a great design, Psychomen. I might just check my Facebook real quick while I'm getting a picture of Psychomen to see if he's got back to me about this. I just typed in Psycho. That was not man. Find a nice Kirby-esque version of him. He always looked best when he was drawn by Kirby. Yeah, see, somebody else draws him and he looks so bland. You see him drawn by Kirby and he just looks baller. I don't... anywhere else draws him, he just looks like a green Darkseid. Kirby draws him, and he was a man for a reason. I like that one. I might use that one. Look, Facebook. Nope, no messages from him. No, any progress? No, 19 hours ago. He's on right now. I can see that he's on Facebook right now, and he's not responding. So, g'day, Rog. How you going, brother? Good to see you. I don't know, boys. If somebody could do the job that it looks like his style, I hate to say it, but I just don't think I'm going to be able to go with him next time, because this whole campaign's been not sabotage, but negatively affected. I'm disappointed. One of the big selling points was being so far ahead of schedule. Now I've been put right back. Anyway, I'll stop whinging about it because I can't do much about it right now. So drawing some Psychomen from the... No, he's not from the negative zone. He's the one that shrunk. He's got this tiny, tiny shrunken universe. It's a nihilist that's from the negative zone. Man, these guys are just operating on another level. And everything you see done in comics these days just feels derivative compared to the stuff they were doing in mainstream comics. I mean, like the Fantastic Four go. Like there was a time when it was Nihilist's first appearance. That's the first time he was ever there. They just rediscovers the negative zone. They go in there and discover it's this backwards world of negative energy, and a Nihilist runs it. It's this awful place. I mean, a Nihilist really used to be a dark side level threat. Like he was a big, scary dude. They've sort of punked him out a lot these days. And then, Nova ripped his tongue out of his head. That'll do it to you. And that was just one issue. They go there, go to the negative zone. Fought a Nihilist, defeated him, escaped. And then 40 years later, people are still... all right, I'll just send a message real quick. Send another message. See, we're messaging my colorist Rog because he's like 3 months late with the. Not 3 months late. He's late. He's late with the pages. For the last 3 weeks, every week he's told me, "I'll happen to you next week," and it hasn't happened. And it's been like this for a little while. Like I got the money to pay him. I think he's just taken on too many projects. And instead of saying, and then he got crook with the COVID, he's out of action for like 3 months. And instead of saying, "Oh, look, I can't do this, find someone else. I enjoy working with you, etc., he's kept on saying, "No, I can do it. And you think, okay, well, he does good work. He knows what he's doing. He teaches classes on how to be a colorist. Yeah, it's a thing. If I hadn't have had such a big lead time with all the art, I'd be in a lot of trouble. Looking forward to getting some ink on this Psycho, man. It's going to be good. What a crazy design, man. Something I've been really appreciating lately is Kirby's pinups, these like one-offs. It was not specific character. It's not like a fourth world character or anything like that. It's just some random... There's one I saw the other day. It's just some random like queen. Yes, queen with this bizarre headpiece. Yeah, we'll do, mate. There's plenty of talented colorists out there, so it's not a big deal for you guys. I don't think. I think you can just look elsewhere. For me, I've still got time, but instead of being 3 months early, I might be lucky and be 3 weeks early. What are you gonna do? Maybe next time I'll have the colors and the art done before we go live. I think that's possible. If I can find another colorist in the same budget. Paul Billick is the only guy we need for colors. He's good, man. He's real good. And if you can do, as you know, I don't know. It's funny because I wanted a more muted color scheme for the company, man. I want it to be more dusty and washed out because it is set in the desert, desert regions. And when I got the first pages back, they popped. They were so bright. There's so much color. It's so vibrant. Not at all what I wanted. But everybody seemed to like it, so I just went with it. But it's not at all how I originally imagined it. I'm not unhappy with it. It's just very different. But now we're at a stage where, the whole production's being held up. That's worrying. So I'd be open to the different colors for next time around. All right, let's get Psychomen happening. It's only been an hour. That's all right. Just mindful I've got so many of these to do. I think what I'm going to have to do in the near future is just start drawing them in my own time. Maybe have the camera here and record the whole thing and then play it, forward at like 10 times speed or something as like a speed draw and chuck that up on YouTube. Seems silly to be doing this much work and not get some sort of benefit from it. I don't know who'd really want to sit there and watch this without my dulcet tones over the top, but I don't know. People tune in. Sometimes I see stuff that people are doing on shows. I'm like, I don't know, man. I think a lot of people treat YouTube and to a lesser extent CG YouTube as their television, as their regular scheduled programming. Aside from times like this, I can't really get away to regularly commit to, like I don't even watch Bancroft's show every day. I'll be making lunch or something for the kids, or we'll be going for a walk, or we got some gardening to do today. Bought some sunflower seeds. The kids are given sunflower seeds by their preschool and they lost them and they're really disappointed, so I went and bought some more. We're going to plant those today. So, we got stuff to do. I don't like to, cats in the cradle and all that. I could never say my father ignored us, but he was very work-oriented. He worked with plants that need a lot of attention and time and, specific pH levels in the soil and specific water levels and stuff. So, he was always off. He was just working. He just worked. And he'd think nothing about going in on the weekend and checking all the pH levels and all the water levels. It's like, well, that's your weekend, dude. But if he didn't do it, the something could go wrong with the plants in the interim and then the whole crop's lost. So I understood it. But you did sort of feel like second place to some plants. So I definitely didn't want my kids to be feeling like that. I don't want them to feel like anything I'm doing is more important than them. And even though sometimes I would rather just do something like this, or paint. Like I've been printing all these miniatures on this 3D printer. I haven't painted a single one yet. I've been printing for 2 weeks, almost solid 2 weeks, and I haven't been able to paint any of them because I just don't have the time to, sit down and set everything up. Get your brushes, get your paints, get your water. I'm looking at doing some oil painting with these. There's this guy, Marco something. He's some Italian dude. His accent's hilarious. Like, he's so much fun to listen to. He's so infectious about painting, and he uses oil paints on miniatures. And it's completely changed the way I look at painting in that size, at that scale. And I can't wait to try some of those techniques. But it's oil paint, so you need your thinners, you need everything set up, and you need the time to do it. You don't just sit down and you don't just sit down and oil paint for 10 minutes. If you're going to oil paint, you're going to do it for an hour, half an hour. You got to sort of commit to it. You got to have some time to do it because there is so much paraphernalia. If you've got a dedicated space, I suppose you could walk in, pick up a brush, slap some paint on, and then just walk out and go on with your day, Jackson Pollock style. But if you don't, our house is nice, but it's fairly small. A little bit of a bit cottagey, you know. That's what people say when you've got a nice house that's small. So it's a nice cottage. It's just a nice way of saying it's small. It's a good size, all right? It's a good size. It's not really, it's a bit small. When the kids grow up, I don't know how we're going to have a family of 4 in a house this size. I don't know if we're going to have to... Well, we're looking at doing an extension anyway. We've got a bit of space out the back there, chuck an extension on another couple of rooms. Should be right. Yeah, so I don't want my kids to ever look back and say, oh, I remember that time I wanted to show Dad something, but he was more interested in doing this instead. That would suck, because I lived through that, so I'd rather not put that on them if I can help it. But it does mean what I want comes second place a lot of the time, or last even, if you consider I've got 2 kids and a wife. Denny, I miss the whole Denny meme. I got caught up on Let's Go Brandon, thanks to Dean, but I missed the whole Denny thing. I took a week off and like 3 new memes formed over that time, and I have no idea. I was glad I got a chance to avow before I took my sabbatical. I don't want to be known as a coward. What a great design Psychomen is. And it's like I was saying, like, Kirby draws it, looks fantastic. Anybody else draws it, looks, average. It looks pretty bad. Only Kirby had the balls to really push it to the limits it needed to be to take it to that level of greatness. The other pictures I saw of it online when I was looking for reference was they drew it so mundane, so realistically. It's like, oh, Psychomen was like, if you did a Psychomen costume in a movie, it would look pretty ridiculous. But Kirby manages to make it work. And I think I was saying before, like, just enjoying his pinups that aren't necessarily related to any other franchise, and he's just free to do just crazy stuff. And he had this picture of some queen surrounded by these bizarre Cro-Magnon insect alien men, and there's more detail on her crown than most modern Marvel artists put in a whole page. It was just nuts, and it was perfectly symmetrical and geometric, and it's just gorgeous. And you think he just did that for a lark? It wasn't even a commission or anything. He just had an idea in his head, and he went with it, and that's what we got out of it. Amazing. Yeah, with his reflections and like this, here you got the reflections in the metal. I don't think he really referenced anything. I think he just put down whatever he thought at the time. He's like, yeah, this will do. And I don't know, we just accepted it. But then, I remember this Jack Kirby story where Spider-Man first meets the Fantastic Four, and he actually gets in a fight with them, and he nearly beats them. I might not be the first time. I think it was. I think it actually predates when he broke into their, Amazing Spider-Man 1, he breaks in the Fantastic Four's Baxter building and ends up trapped in that tube. Yes, I said tube, very funny then. Tube. Cool Whip. And I don't think that was the first time they met. And there's this Kirby short story that was a backup in some Spider-Man book that I read. And the art on it was atrocious. It was really super. In the Golden Age, sometimes you had that really super basic art that was just crude, quite frankly. I'm talking like worse than Shuster and Siegel. I think it's Siegel. The guys that drew Superman, like worse than that old 1928, 1938 style Superman stuff. Really, really crude. I think that was the first time I saw Jack Kirby's work. I'm like, that's awful. It's really simple, hardly any detail. Everything looked round and soft. I think that part of it was the inker didn't know how to handle him. Maybe he had a different inker instead of himself. Should be rare. It took me a long time to learn to love Kirby, but now I see why he's the king. I think some people just say that because everybody else does. But like, old Andrew Yang saying how Stan Lee's his favorite comic book artist, but as an artist, as somebody who can draw a little bit, I certainly can appreciate Kirby and what he brought to the table. This pen's dying again. I think what's happening is when the pen touches the texture that I'm using, the ink on the page, maybe one's water-based and one's alcohol-based or something, and they're not reacting well together, I think is the problem. I wonder how Kirby remembered to how he'd reference things. Like Psychomen's costume is really unnecessarily complex, and he chose to draw this every panel for 22 pages like a mad lad. But how did he keep the costume straight? How did he remember what detail went where? Because Psychomen's got these weird little node things all running down his arm, and how many stripes are on the side here. I don't know how he did it. And as most people know, Kirby was a veteran. He served in, I believe it was World War II. They all think, oh, Kirby punched Nazis. Yeah, okay. But, what if he got out of the army and he went and did something else? He never drew comics. Like, how much poorer would we all be if he'd gone and just become a cartoonist for a newspaper or a photographer or something completely unrelated to art whatsoever? We wouldn't even know what we missed. Yeah, Chief Baron's covered in details, lots of textures, as you'd expect in that sort of almost apocalyptic fantasy world. Like even his axe doesn't look overtly like metal in the concept pictures. You could well imagine it being something cruder, a more simple material. I mean, do they even have blacksmiths in that? In a world that's inhabited with demons and stuff. Some of the fantasy stuff you get is like Bronze Age fantasy, like pre-iron, pre-steel. Robert E. Howard even had to do like some sort of hand-wavium type stuff with Conan's era, saying, they had iron and all that, good, and they could make plate mail and stuff, but then there was a cataclysm, Atlantis sank, and they lost all the technology. It sent men back to the Bronze Age, and they had to start again because he wanted to have a different, this is my belief, he wanted to have a different world than what we actually saw historically. He wanted to have his own nations and his own people and his own adventures. But he also wanted to have all the cool battle axes and plate mail and stuff that you just couldn't get if you'd set it in the actual appropriate era. Back then people were using copper and bronze and stuff. So I am going to be doing the colouring on the center. And Sean, I want to say like big hunk of iron. There you go. Okay. I thought it was something less refined than steel, just from the texture and the way it was drawn. There's a program that lets you, it just does all the flats for you. You put the black and white art in there and it flats them. It finds the white spaces between the black lines, creates like artificial flats. And I believe you can even pick a color palette for it to draw from. It won't be perfect. Like if you put a picture of Joker in there or something and you pick a Joker color palette, it might give him red hair and purple skin and a white suit, but you've still got it all flatted out, which is an advantage. It's going to take, because I'll talk to the colorist and say, where you up to? He's like, oh yeah, I'll do the flats this week and such next week. I was okay, righto. That was a month ago. But having a program like that would reduce a heap of hassle. Even if, like I said, even if the colors are wrong, it doesn't really matter. So I'm looking forward to giving that a go. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up with Dean. He's pretty fast. He's pretty prodigious. But what's Comic Blast, Jakes? I don't know what that is. No, I haven't seen the flats, Corey. And because it's never been a problem before. Like the first, 40 pages, I'd pay him for 5, he'd do 5. I'd pay him for 5, he'd do 5. And then he said, let's switch to 10. I said, yeah, right. I'm like, I don't mind. I've budgeted for it. It's there. If you can deliver 10 pages in a row, we'll be done way ahead of time. So I paid for 10, and it took longer to get them than I'd like because, you had the COVID and all that. And I'm like, okay. And now it's same. He said, okay, last 10. Okay, last 10. Have them for you for next week. That's 2 months ago. Oh, I got the COVID shot. I'm sick again. Okay. I got the second COVID shot. I'm sick again. Well, can you just prioritize my comic over your health, please? I mean, rude. So Psychomen took a little while, but I think it was worth it. I think it's come out good. I don't know if there's anything I really want to. I might just throw a little bit of yellow on his eyes. He doesn't actually have yellow eyes, but Kirby's. I don't know. It's Kirby stuff. I just want to put a little bit of color on it. All right. Psychomen. Have we got any more suggestions in the chat for who I should draw next? Yeah, that's good. Look, Replicant, if you've backed Company-Men and you want that Psychomen, just hit me up in DMs or whatever if you're on Twitter, or I suppose here if you don't mind, with your backer number, and I'll get that one. I will endeavour to get that one sent to you. Like it's all being haven't. He's I don't know. He just disappeared off Facebook. He didn't answer me. Pretty disappointing. Let's grab another one. How many have I drawn today? 1, 2, 3, 5. 5 in an hour and a half. That's a lot quicker than I normally am. I don't know. I suppose it helps that I had a pretty easy one at the beginning with our man, and then Dean. Who should we draw now? I kind of want to draw Namor, but he's just like a naked dude with pointy ears. I feel like I've got most of that covered with Dr. Manhattan. I've already drawn Chief Baron. Any other CG characters maybe I should draw? No werewolves. No werewolves and no cowards. American Crusader. It's that Golden Age character, isn't it? That's cool. You got an unusual. If it's one I'm thinking of, you've got a really unusual design. It's got like this occult symbol on his chest, and it's like, what's that got to do with America? Yeah, that's exactly who I thought it was. I picked the Alex Ross version of him, which. Why wouldn't you? Honestly, I mean, really, like 9 out of 10 versions of him online is the Alex Ross version. Look, he's just that good, and there's a whole bunch of people doing updated designs, and none of them are as good as the original. I mean, clearly, I'll just draw whatever. Oh, cool! They did an updated American Crusader and made him black. That's stunning and brave. I haven't seen anybody do that before. I think more companies should rare swap characters. What a great idea. Fair income. Well, I mean, it's just it's pretty simple design. Draw what I'm going to do to the colorist. Draw a female. Travis Bickle. I don't know who that is. Jabba the Hutt. Jabba the Hutt should be pretty easy. I'll draw Jabba the Hutt and then I'll come back to American Crusader because Jabba's a bit different. We'll have to look for a picture of him though, because I know he's sort of fat and he's got the frog mouth, and like a slug tail. But as I've mentioned before, I've not watched Star Wars, so I've only seen pictures of him. I don't really. He looks like he's praising the sun in that one. Yeah, gross. But yeah, like what a memorable design that 40 years later. It's still, you know, in pop culture, people still refer to it. It must have been pretty out there, you know, back in the day. Imagine seeing that for the first time. It's easy for us to say delicious bee crumbs. Female Jabba with a mohawk. I think I nearly need to do it sideways. He's so fat just to fit him on the page. I knew it wasn't going to be able to fit him on the page. Heaps of detail on this with all the... Why would you want a female Jabba the Hutt? I'd rather look at Dr. Manhattan again. You just know someone out there has commissioned female Jabba porn. You just, you know, like you don't want to think about it, but you certainly don't have to doubt it. Oh, I've been using a lot of shades and stuff. Might have to. Maybe that's probably why I've been drawing so much quicker. I haven't been using those different shades of grey and brown and stuff. Those pens that give you that extra depth, because I've been getting through them a lot more quickly. So maybe it's an adjustment I need to make to get this job done. I mean, I'd hate to be 3 months late. Anybody seen any of those new Nicolas Cage movies? He's had like 3 movies come out in the last couple of months. You got that pig one. You got the Five Nights at Freddy's style one. And you got that new one where he's, I don't know, getting the Shogun's daughter back from a cybernetic ninja band or something. It's like, this dude's he's just giving zero fucks anymore. He's just like, man, if I want to make it, I'm going to make it. And I applaud that. I want to see more of that. I want to see more frivolous movie making, you know, where the actor just says, look, you know, he's got enough money. If you can drop $2 million on Action Comics #1, you can certainly afford to get these movies made and just make what you want to make. I mean, Val Kilmer's been doing that for years. He's been the producer of all of his own movies for like the last 15 years. He just wants to make his own movies. Man, I know he had like some sort of disease or something, but House of a Serial Killer in New Orleans. Malcolm went from being like a really good-looking dude to being, I don't know, someone's uncle. I suppose you could be a good-looking dude and someone's uncle, but you know what I mean. It was not kind. But I watched a movie with him a while ago where he's like some veteran who lost his leg in the war, and he come home and there's like a crooked, corrupt sheriff and all sorts of business. It's a bit like, like First Blood with a bit of Walking Tall or whatever. It was all right. At a battle at a construction site, I think that's a pretty good place to have a final battle. Lethal Weapon 3 did it first. There's so much cool stuff. Nail guns, you can use nail guns. Yeah, throat cancer. I thought it was something like that. Hit him hard. Poor bugger. Like throat cancer, millions of dollars, or no throat cancer. I'll take the no throat cancer. Thanks. Let's chuck it out, playing around this big fat SOB. I think I might come in with some greys on this one just because there's so much detail here. It tends to look like just a big field of lines or stippling or whatever, whereas if you put some grey in there, you can shift the weight to one side and have a clear light source. Says the writer. I love to do something like what Six Scale Combat's doing with Napalm Brothers. Like, he's doing the whole thing. The script, the art, the colors, like it's all his vision. Whatever a comic by me would look like, I'd like, well, that was close. I nearly dropped the pen right on the page. Would have left a marker. Well, you wouldn't notice on this picture probably. Like, as much as I enjoy working with Dean and other people, there's some projects I got that I just don't think are going to appeal to someone else, and I think like my art's good enough to do these projects. Like I wouldn't want to be the artist on the center. I need someone of Dean's caliber for that. But I got other stuff that's sort of more low key, a little bit, like Zach's got these kooky projects he does. And that way, all I'd really be doing is raising money to pay for the printing. Like, I'm looking forward to doing some coloring on the center simply because I've got all this free time at home. I can be coloring, and if the kids say, "Hey, Dad, come look at this ant," I'm like, "Okay." I'll just pause I'll stop what I'm doing, put the pen down, go look at this ant, have a conversation about ants. Be Dad. "Hey, Dad, I want some lunch." "All right, cool. Let's get you. So what do you want for lunch?" "Nutella again." "Great." It'd be good to keep me busy during the day, keep me off Twitter. Because as Dean mentioned one time, I actually post more than Gail Simone, so that's probably something I need to work on. Brian Hitch is has been for a long time one of my favorite artists. I think I'm going a bit off him now. But, back in the Ultimates, when he was drawing the Ultimate stuff, I loved his stuff. I loved how realistic it was. I enjoyed it on the Authority. You got someone like Brian Hitch and got him to draw the Napalm Brothers. He couldn't do it. It'd take from the experience, But Six brings his own style to it because he knows how he wants it to look. That's what I'm saying. Like, I want to be able to, my own little vanity projects where I've just done the whole thing. As much as I enjoy working with other artists, I'm looking forward to working with them more in the future. I hope the center does really well so I can harangue Dean into working on the second one straight away, because I know he's it is an exaggeration, obviously. Nobody posts more than Gail Simone. That's not even a joke. Like, she she finishes one post and launches into another. I thought it was an exaggeration. For some reason, I'm not blocked by her. She unblocked a bunch of people a while ago, but I've never been blocked by her. I've got alts that are blocked by her, but I've never been blocked by her. And I went and had a look, and if you do the math on it, like she's literally posting, finishes one, turns around, does another, you know. There's Jabba. Jibba Jabba. We're looking at American Crusader earlier. Let's grab a picture of him. He's back. Crazy Mad's back again. Yes, he's back. Tell your friends. Paste. Good design, American Crusader. Now, there's a guy out there called Otto Grunwald. I suppose with a name like that, it's Grunwald. Otto Grunwald. And he is making comics. And they're all Golden Age characters that are in the public domain. And he's incorporating them to this really mature, really intelligent. Like it's realistic as in it's got like, you know, proper geopolitical implications and stuff in the comics, but it's not realistic like everybody's banging hookers and doing coke. Like, you know how there's that awful sort of comic book realism, like Powers or something from Bendis, where all the heroes are just assholes. It's not like that, but the mythology and the story is just so much more mature than the stuff that they came from. Without being cynical, they're still heroic, they're still heroes, but there's a big cosmic element to it. That he's just a really great storyteller, and I keep thinking if he could just get, you know, some money to get some really good pages drawn up, his stuff would take off. Like this guy's operating on like Grant Morrison levels in my mind. He's got some fiction there. He's got these characters he's written, like some short fiction, serialized fiction. He's on that Tappers website, which I'd never heard of before I come across this stuff. He's fantastic. I don't know. My platform's only the size it is, and I can only tell as many people as I can tell that it's good. There's that other dude, I don't know his name, Atomic Pulp Comics, which is a mouthful. I think it's too much. And he's taking Golden Age characters and updating them into the 70s. So he's taking that Black Owl character and he's making the successor of that. No, not the successor. He's updated the character to be into the 70s instead of the 30s or whatever. That arm's too short. What are we doing here? It needs to be down here. And that's really good too, because it's got like that real Silver Age sensibility. And the heroes are heroic and there's ongoing storylines and stuff, but it's not cynical. It's not that sort of thing where, you know, when Joker killed Jason Todd, you know, there was some innocence lost. That's never, you can't undo that. Even if you bring him back to life, you don't undo what was done by killing him. And so this is, you know, these Atomic Pulp comics are comics set in a world where Joker would never kill Jason Todd, either because he'd never be allowed, it would never enter his head. You know, like the bad guys pull guns and shoot at this Black Owl character and he dodges it or uses gas smoke bombs to obscure their view, that sort of thing. But, you know, it just doesn't have that cruelty to it. And so he's doing good stuff. And then he's getting all political, and I'm like, bro, when you shit on people from the other side of the political spectrum, you're alienating 50% of your customer base. Like, just make comics. So then he blocked me and went on this huge tirade about how he'd rather sell no comics than allow fascism to flourish. I'm like, oh, okay then. It's a lost cause. Can't even see that. He might have shouted Nazi. He might have said Nazis rather than fascists. That wouldn't surprise me. I feel like that's dying down, the whole Nazi thing. It's not a big deal as it used to be. People aren't saying it as much. I'm not seeing it as much. Maybe I'm not in the right circles or the wrong circles, as the case may be. I wonder what people are going to do with these sketch cards. Do you think it's going to go in a drawer somewhere? I don't think anyone's just going to chuck it, at least straight away. They might come across it in 10 years' time and be like, oh, yeah, I you know, we all do that. You come across something that you bought or were given and you think, oh, it's been 10 years. I've never looked at it again or whatever. I think it's probably safe to chuck it in the bin. I know, they're not really big enough to go up on a wall. I mean, it's cardboard. They're not flimsy, because they're postcards. So you'd expect them to survive the rigors of the US Postal Service. American Crusader's real name, Archie Masters. Doesn't sound very realistic, does it? I think even these days when I hear Archie, I think like Archie and Jughead Archie. Even though I never really read those comics as a kid. I did read Archie Meets the Punisher. That was a trip. And they threatened to follow it up with Wolverine Meets Jughead, but I don't think that ever actually happened. I remember when that came out, Punisher and Archie, a friend of mine picked it up and was going to buy it along with a couple of other comics. And I don't know how it happened. He put the comics he was buying on the counter, except for Punisher and Archie. He sort of held that in his hand with something else that he'd bought. Because he had his hands full. He's buying like 6 comics. And I think he just forgot that it was in his other hand. Anyway, he walked out of the store with the comic. He never ended up paying for it. I don't think it was intentional. A lot of people doing the public domain heroes. I'm in two minds about it. It's not for me. I'd rather make my own. It's like, oh, you know, this character's in the public domain. Or I could just make my own version of it. And I'm not beholden to anyone else. And it's not derivative. Archie versus Predator, no. And they have made Nazi completely empty as an insult. It's almost a badge of honor now. Like, I don't think people are going to say, yes, I am that thing. But people are like, yeah, okay. It's like you can predict what they're going to say next. Like, oh, why don't you call me a Nazi? You damn Nazi. Ah, you called it. Yeah, that's right. I know what you know. One step ahead. It's like I used to think the C-U-N-T, see you next Tuesday, that word was about the worst word I'd heard. And then I went out west, and out there people use it as punctuation. Out there people it's just, what's going on? C-word. You cashed up C-word. Give us some money, C-word. You got a sickie, C-word. What's going on, C-word? That's just how they talk to each other. That's how they refer to each other, people out there. It doesn't mean anything. And when you hear it that much, you just become desensitized to it. And now if I kick my toe, I'm liable to call the chair that I kicked my toe on that word. Just because I spent, 5 years out there hearing everybody use it for everything. It just doesn't mean anything anymore. Let's get this symbol. It's a tricky symbol. Yes, I don't really know why American Crusaders got like a pentagram as his symbol. Don't know what the logic is there. He's got one on his forehead as well. Some of these old costume designs are just wild. But then, you look at Justice Society, back when it was before there was the Justice League, when the Justice Society was the only game in town. And you look at the range of costumes there and the characters there. Like I think they have nearly every costume trend that ever was made since then, all in one team. You look at something like Hawkman with the big wing silhouette. You look at Adam with the bare legs and the full hood. Superman with the cape, Batman with the cowl and the exposed mouth. I mean, nearly every comic book convention, costume convention was already present You got Green Lantern's little domino mask. Flash with his well, you got just Golden Age Flash. That's a little bit different. A lot of modern costume designs don't feel like costumes at all. I mean, Kamala Khan's got a clear reason for wearing a bed sheet, but a lot of the other ones, you know, their costumes are just like a jacket and some trousers. Like, that's not. Even Hawkeye in the MCU movies, he didn't really have a costume. He had like a not even a uniform, but like a military uniform. It was functional, but it didn't exactly scream Hawkeye. Now, a purple mask with pointed tips and blue chainmail, that screams Hawkeye. Jason says, now that electing Biden has solved racism, I feel like those complaints have lost all their momentum too. Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? Must be nice to live in a world without racism. We're not quite there yet in Australia. We're still massively xenophobic. I'll do what he said as well. All right, while I'm finishing this guy, we've got a suggestion for another character to draw, because it's only been not quite 2 hours. I think I could go on for another hour before the kids still aren't awake. So I had a poll on my Twitter the other day about, I've got a couple of story ideas, and I wanted to see which one people would be most interested in reading. I got to develop, not got to, I choose to, and develop one as the next series I'll be writing of novels, because I also write novels, and that was really interesting to get the feedback. It was a very clear winner. People picked the third option, the medieval spec ops team. That what was a clear winner, but it was interesting to see who picked what, and what appealed to different people. Now I'm going to write all of them eventually. It's just a matter of time. American Crusader. That's another one done. Don't know how many people left. I might just duck off and grab a drink real quick, because I am getting a little bit thirsty. I've been talking for 2 hours straight. When I come back, hopefully there's some suggestions in the chat, and we can do a couple more pictures drawn before we move on. Dean said I've got to draw Sinner as the last one. Don't know if I'll do that today, but I definitely will draw him at some point. I'll be drawing him without a hood, as God intended. Right, I'm back in a minute, lads. Phil's here. G'day, Phil. I just went to get a drink. I'm just waiting for some suggestions from the chat for who to draw. Phil, have you got a Lost Pages character I should draw? I have to find my digital copy of Lost Pages and look at that for reference. They're not. Yeah, some designs are easy. Some designs are. I drew the mask already. Gorilla from Black Flag. I don't know. Isn't that just a big gorilla? Isn't gorilla just a gorilla? Like a purple gorilla? I could draw a gorilla. Yeah, I drew the mask a couple of weeks ago. And I've drawn silhouette now. Dean. That was a concession I chose to make. It's a geared up gorilla. Okay, well, I'll find a picture of Cable and a picture of a gorilla and smash the two together. That's a great picture of a gorilla. I don't know. Is he like a full-on gorilla, or is he more humanoid? Does he like stand and walk around like a person, or does he get around on all fours like a... This doesn't sound complex. These gorilla pictures all look like Lionel Richie album covers. Just laid back and chilling. Yeah, I drew the mask from Dark Horse. Gorillas are a trope. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling... I could draw it like a gorilla. I feel like I'd just be drawing a gorilla with like a bandolier on it. Is that what we're talking about? Mask grade would be tough to draw. I've already drawn Cobra Commander. Sure. Let's see if I can share this picture of a gorilla. I don't know why it made me laugh. Look at that dude. Look at that guy. Doesn't even look like a real gorilla. It looks like a dude in a suit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll try a gorilla. This is going to be a bit of a worry though if we're only this many pictures into the thing and already running out of characters. Might have to go to the old Marvel handbook or something. See if I can. I bought the Who's Who omnibus, and seriously, the spine of it must be about 4 inches wide. It's just got every Who's Who, every DC character. It cost me like $170. Totally worth it. I love those books when I was younger. Back in when they come out back in the 80s. Picked them up from a secondhand bookstore. Because we were poor, bitch. It's okay. Being poor builds character. You know, if you're poor, and then you're not poor, you appreciate what you've got and you feel like you've earned it and you've worked up for it. But if you start out well off, easy life, I don't think you can ever really know. You don't really know how bad it can be or how good you've got it. I think being poor gives you perspective. I mean, sure, it's not something you choose forever if you can help it, but while you're there or after the fact, when you look back on it, you can say, yeah, well, at least the camera there. At least I know. At least I have some idea. Sometimes you see people say stuff, and it's like, wow, you want to talk about privilege. You don't even know how good you got it. All right, let's chuck a bandolier on this bad boy. Some pouches. Got to have lots of pouches. I really don't know this character, so I'm really just drawing a gorilla with stuff. Can I put a gun in his hand? I don't think I can draw that angle. It's an angry gorilla. They have tiny little eyes, don't they? I wouldn't want to be drawing a gorilla every panel. I suppose maybe some people enjoy drawing apes. Yeah, that thing where writers say they ask the artist, "So what do you like to draw?" And they try to put that sort of thing in the script. If the artist likes drawing horses, well, they try and put something in there that the artist likes to draw. And put it on a farm or a ranch or something so they can draw the sort of thing they like. In art school, I really used to enjoy drawing trees because, you know, they're so full of detail and all the big gnarly trees all around Newcastle. All these roots and branches, and they're very very detailed, very full on. You could just spend all day just drawing one and picking up all these tiny little bits of detail and texture. I mean, you got to draw something. You're there drawing for like 8 hours a day. You got to draw something. So, and you got to sort of justify what you're doing, believe it or not. We had some wild classes in art school. Wild is in like because the teachers are all high the whole time. They're just these completely out there, super liberal, lefty, artsy, hippie type people. But they had some cool ideas to break you out of, you know, like a lot of people went in there and they'd learnt to draw from comic books or album covers or animation or whatever. And these guys, you know, they really broke down ideas that you had about how things should be done to make you more of an artist, to make you actually think and draw like an artist, as opposed to just copying what you'd seen in a comic book somewhere. So yeah, all sorts of. There's one lesson we had to go out and find the largest branch we could, and then we had paper taped to the ground and a little bowl of ink, black ink, and we had to use the long branch as our brush essentially, and we'd be dipping the brush in this ink pot. Now, some of the branches are 3 meters long, you know, and then you were trying to draw. Imagine how much strength and control you've got to have to maneuver a branch over 3 meters to do fine detail ink work. You know, there's spotting, there's drips. It stopped you from being precious. Like I said about that, the tin of black paint that I said this other guy used to bring around. You can't be married to anything. You can't be precious about your work like that, because it's just as likely to be destroyed or ruined, and you have to do it again. They got you out of that sort of mindset where, you know, because you'd have discussions of your art afterwards, and some people didn't like it. So I remember many times people would storm off because of the feedback they got either from the other teachers or the students there, and they got stroppy about it, and no, you guys just don't understand what I'm trying to do. Well, I mean, you know, isn't part of that on you as the artist? If you haven't made it clear what it is you're doing, aren't you at least part ways responsible for that? And to say that somebody's interpreting art wrong, that's a pretty big call to make. If we're in an age, a postmodern age, where anything is art if you say it is, then who's to say that somebody's interpretation of art is wrong? The problem then is when, you know, you've got people like these SJWs that are seeing things through this critical race lens. They can't help but find the bad in stuff. So they will then, this is why postmodernism was created. If anything's permissible, if anything goes, and somebody says, I see racism in your work, you can't argue it, because that person has literally seen it. And you can't say they're wrong, because anybody's interpretation is valid, because anything can be art. And you can say, I had no intent whatsoever. Okay, so you're fully conscious of everything you're doing every time you make an artwork. Saying like, you know, a comic book page, I think you could say, yes, I'm fully cognizant of everything I'm doing, and I'm aware of the visual styles and libraries and tropes that I'm drawing upon to make this thing, because it's maybe more mercenary. It's not as free form probably as painting on a canvas or something like that, and it tells a narrative, whereas a painting doesn't necessarily have to have a narrative. It can be a singular static visual image that can evoke, but doesn't necessarily have to be part of or telling a story. Look at abstract pieces, Trying to tell me there's a story in abstract pieces. There might be a narrative in terms of motion about how you move from one part of your eyes move from one part of the canvas to another. But if this squiggle here represents, no, then it's not really abstract, is it? So it was a strange time, art school, but ultimately I think it was worth it, if nothing else, for the mindset. And making you aware of the absurdity of this postmodern way of dealing with media. I remember another time we went to the park, and in Civic Park in Newcastle, there's this huge bronze fountain that sprays water up in these arcs, and then it splashes down, and that causes a spray. That's the whole thing. Anyway, the lecturer there took us there, and we had a set of coloured pencils, and he said, you need to draw the fountain, but draw it using the lightest colours to represent the mass closest to you, and the darker colours to represent the masses further away from you. So regardless of the actual colour of the fountain itself, because the whole thing was bronze, so it was really just sort of like the one bronzy colour. He was saying, if something's closer, colour it yellow and orange, and then go through to your reds, your purples, your blues, as you go further back. So it was like this three-dimensional. They had to really think about three-dimensionality of it. And it was really challenging. Not a lot of people were able to do that because they couldn't think in that spatial sense of what's close and what's not. I can't help but think that dealing with stuff like that is going to make you a better artist, just because it's pushed those muscles in your head. The ways of looking at things. I'm glad I think it was like sort of a waste of time, but it was an enjoyable waste of time. It didn't have anything to do with the next career I ended up having, but it wasn't a bad way to kill 3 years. I don't think I'd be very happy if my kid told me he wanted to go to art school. I'd be like, it's got to be better ways to waste your time. I've been hearing this conversation all my life. Debates about meaning in art are an excuse for not being able to create anything of substance. Well, that's what I'm saying with this whole postmodern point of view is if anything has whatever meaning you attribute to it, then nothing really has any meaning. If the artist doesn't have the right to say it means this, only this, and nothing else, then where's the line? At what point does artist A be able to say that, but artist B is not? It gets really tricky, and postmodernism is cancer. It gives things that have no value, and it removes the intrinsic value that other things do already have. And you got aside from the whole modern art money laundering thing, theory that you create an artwork, the bloke at the museum values it for $2 million, and then how's it go? Someone buys it and donates it for the value of $2 million, and then it's tax deductible, Even aside from that, you've got a whole generation of people that were raised on fields of black or fields of blue or fields of red. Like there's this huge, some of them in the Newcastle Art Gallery. You go in there, it's just this huge field of one color. Some vague tonal variations in there from where brushworks and brushstrokes and stuff, but basically it's just a big field of one color. And those things be worth thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, if not more. And it's literally just somebody's just gotten a canvas as large as you are tall, and they've painted it the one color. To say that there is meaning in that just seems like a fib. And you want to talk about, the immensity of oblivion and like you see people sitting there just staring into it. One of them's white. And you see people sitting there staring into this huge canvas of white. That'd be problematic these days. Yeah, Jason's got a good point. The whole argument's designed to hollow you out so you're easy to control and give you this mindset that everybody's perspective is worth listening to and worth hearing and valid. And that's just not true. Some people's perspectives are evil. And the only reason you should hear evil is to know what to avoid. Or that old thing about, sunlight being the best disinfectant. Another thing I think art school was good for was we used to have to regularly critique not just each other's artworks, but professional artworks to be taken. I think the teachers were just lazy, and they say we're going to go to a gallery and you're going to write a review of this artwork. It's like you're getting paid big money for me to sit here and write a review on an artwork while you go have a smoke outside, But it helped me learn to look at things critically and thematically, which is something that I apply to my reviews, which I haven't done a lot of lately. I haven't felt much motivation. I haven't felt like there's been. So there is Gorilla. I just haven't been feeling the desire to make reviews lately. But a couple of books I need to review. I need to review The Embrace, Cobalt, a few others that have come through lately. There's been quite a few being delivered from CG in particular. I feel it's a good amount of CG books. It's funny because they sort of come in waves. I remember when Company Men launched, it was right around the same time as it's like a week after Star Circuit, a week before Cobalt. There was same time as Embrace. There's a good half a dozen books all launched at the same time, and now they're all being fulfilled. All right, might just do one more and then and call it, because that'll bring me up to 10. There's probably a good time to start actually, starting the day. Excuse me, I don't know if stream watchers to be believed. It's telling me there's only 2 people watching. That's okay, I've got to do it anyway, so it doesn't matter if there's 0 people watching. Have a look on Facebook. Old mate still hasn't got back to me. Harambe, I just drew a gorilla. And I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would. The killing of Harambe is a whole thing on Wikipedia. There's a picture of Harambe up in heaven surrounded by light. The real tragedy about the shooting of Harambe the gorilla, I bet it's going to be white people, I did enjoy it though, so I might draw Harambe again. I might draw a gorilla again. That's a good picture. I said these gorillas, they're looking like Lionel Richie album covers, sitting back and reclining. They're not silly. All right, this might be the last one for the day. Go and I've got to colour this Sinner picture that Dean's put together. It's looking really good. I mean, it's got this weird hood thing on it that I don't like, but aside from that, it's a great picture. So get some colour down on that. Get that Photoshop filter onto it and see if I can see how that works. If it works as advertised, I mean, that's a game changer. It's like $80, but I mean, it's a license for it, and you just use it forever. This is really not working. Pigman Harambe. I'm interested to see what the Wikipedia about Harambe says about how accurately it represents, the stuff that was going on at the time. It's amazing how, you guys know with the article about Comicsgate about how off that is, about how wrong that is, incorrect that is. But people, that's why these fact checkers operate so dishonestly. I saw one just on Twitter yesterday, I think it was, and it's like, fact checking such and such brandished a knife before being shot by police. They rated it as untrue. And you go and you have a look at the specifics. It wasn't a razor, it was a razor blade like knife. And they marked it as untrue. Yeah, that's right. Here I am saying how much I wouldn't enjoy drawing apes, and then my second one of the day. I think it's all I like gribbly detail. I like little gribbly details that you can spend a bit of time on, and because they let you cheat. You just throw some shapes and some lines on there, and it works, and people sort of accept it. You just a whole bunch of fur and stuff, and you go, oh well, that's, I suppose gorillas have fur. I see fur there. That's okay. He's looking more like a Yeti at the moment. Throw a sword on him and call it Shinobi Sasquatch. Well, Replicant, I suppose I was speaking from a place of ignorance, thinking I wouldn't enjoy it. What the right is getting wrong is thinking postmodernism is the leftist approach to deconstructivism. Postmodernism happened. We're all brought up interrogating meta-narrative. Well, that's a good point. Is it something that happened by design, or is it something that happened as a natural response to Dadaism and the absurd? And that's okay. Sometimes even I struggle to keep up with Jason. He's just operating on another level. But if what you're saying is our ability to interrogate a meta-narrative is better now than it ever used to be as a consequence of postmodernism, maybe postmodernism isn't so bad then. Because I think more than ever we're aware of the meta-narrative, and that's a good thing. I remember I said before when George Zimmerman shot Trayvon Martin and the hullabaloo that went on with that, and just seeing how the media was distorting things, I became so much more aware of their agenda and how they were misinterpreting stuff. And there's only one reason to be doing it. There's only one reason for them to do it, and that was actually that incident was the beginning of my red pilling. I'd already started getting on the way when I noticed the way that men were portrayed in media. But seeing it so blatant and so incorrect, when you could tell, like all the evidence pointed one way and they were speaking at the other, and I'm like, you guys are just trying to change the story. They're so overt. Natural Evolution to ask, what is the author really saying with the work? Yeah. And I do like that, but I also concede, I think, and this is pulling back from maybe postmodernism, that, or maybe, whatever the next part of postmodernism is, postmodernism, the idea that anybody's interpretation is correct. I prefer to go, well, this is how I saw it. However, I acknowledge that this instead, I see it as X, but I understand that the author was trying to do Y. I can see Y within it. It still says X for me, but I'm not going to tell the author he's wrong, because that's like getting in there saying, oh, look, I'm in your head. I know what you meant better than you did. Well, no, you don't. It's like, you're not a psychologist. You haven't sat down talking to me about my mother at length. You don't know you don't know my experiences. They're the ones that say, you can't write this or that because you haven't lived that experience. Okay. And you haven't lived mine. So to tell me what my work means, you can tell me what it means to you. You can tell me how you interpreted it, but to say, hey, you literally meant this thing, you don't know. You have no idea of knowing. And but by saying that, they're able to put all sorts of interpretations upon it. Oh, well, you literally meant to have pro-Nazi, you literally meant to be racist, you literally meant to be. And then if you go along with it early on, you can't fight back later on. First they came for these people, and I said nothing. It's all about language. What words actually mean versus what we're being told they mean. And these people control language And because of that, they're able to change what people believe. You look at the way they've changed what racism means. It still means what it means, but even the vaccination, anti-vax, vaccination, all that sort of stuff, that definition's being changed right now on medical websites to suit the current narrative, not what it's been for years and years, what it suits now to suit their narrative. Analogous to the way Americans call the more government side liberals, where both sides are liberal, classic, both social liberals traditionally. Republicans or Democrats don't own either. Poor Harambe. Come on. Pen's really dead. I can't believe that. Postmodern is just a collection of tools for interrogating art. It isn't a single philosophy or world view to be interrogated. Then what do you like? I'm not saying you're wrong. Like your ideas are always worth talking about. What do you then call the postmodern mindset that does that constantly to the point of, what I was saying before, to the point of changing meaning? There's a postmodern mindset, or a mindset that only exists because postmodernism exists, that allows people to misinterpret for their own agenda what it is you've done. Is there a name for the mentality that gives that legitimacy that, again, I don't think would exist without postmodernism? Deconstructivism. Okay. There might be a better word. I'm thinking, yeah, like I think deconstructivism's the process and the mindset. I suppose I'm putting a political lens on it because that's how I'm seeing it used so often. Maybe there isn't a word that encompasses the whole thing. Maybe you refer to deconstructivism via someone's political agenda to support a particular narrative. I don't like the idea that people are getting in trouble for creating work and then being told your work is racist, and them saying you don't even know how racist it is. Like, you're so ignorant, you've made this work that's racist. And that's just possible. You could certainly do that. But the fact that they're not studying To Kill a Mockingbird in schools anymore in America, or at least in some places I heard, if all you're doing is breaking something down to components. Like Australians are very xenophobic, particularly when I was a kid. There was people just like overtly racist. As far as the definition of racism went back then, I think two events that Frankenstein Jr. had a Barbera cartoon. G'day, Johnny. Well, I was going to make this one the last one for today, mate. I could certainly put that on the list for tomorrow. I'm going to have to come back and do more of these tomorrow because I've got like 140 of these to draw. And the next two, well, who knows when the next what? Because who knows when my colorist is actually going to get me the last 10 pages? I could have months to get this done. Oh, don't say it. Frankenstein Jr. I don't know the character, but I could certainly look it up. We can make it the first one I draw tomorrow. I'm just about to end this one on this picture of Harambe that I'm scribbling. Because I've been doing this for nearly 2.5 hours, and which is actually a pretty short stream for me. But hey mate, how you going? Firewatch is here. I didn't know you were still here, Dean. See you, mate. Thanks for stopping by anyway. There's so much entertainment and stuff out there. If somebody decides that they're going to spend some of their time coming in here, I really appreciate that. Even if it's just for a little bit. Like, I know there's other things to do. Other people have shows they do, or maybe 2.5 hours of me rambling while drawing is enough for some people. My problem with a lot of draw streams is they really slow, takes the artist the whole time to do one picture, and they don't always have much to say. I've been a bit quieter this one than I have been lately. Maybe I've got to get back in. That'd be a good replicant. I'd appreciate it if you have the time. I've got to get back into the swing of things. Let's just put some color on our boy Harambe. And the other thing, finishing up at 10 o'clock then gives me a couple of hours to get stuff done before Dean and I are on the Comics Mate stream. And sometimes I do this stream, go for like 4.5 hours, finish up, turn around, make a cup of tea, and then I'm back on straight on with Dean. That can be exhausting, doing those two back to back. So this gives me a bit of time to get some other stuff done. Those clothes aren't going to wash themselves. And Firewatcher says you're going to swing by for Comics Mate it's 2 o'clock our time, so it's 10 now. It's in about 4 hours time. If I do end up drawing my own comic, I think it'd be a real, really hyper detailed 90s style. Everybody grimacing. Like I've got the story rewritten, and I just think it's one that I could handle drawing. That doesn't necessarily. It's not something I pay someone to draw necessarily. I think it'd be very 90s. Very 2000 AD. Yeah, they come out all right. Boy Harambe. Rest in peace. All right. Well, I think that's going to be it for today, ladies and gents. Back same time tomorrow, 7:30 tomorrow. 7:31 today, 7:30 tomorrow. And let's see, how many did we get done today? Let's have a quick look. I think we've got more done than we do most times. So we've got Harambe, we've got Gorilla, American Crusader, Jabba the Hutt, Psychomen, Dr. Manhattan, Dean James, The Watcher, and Owlman. Classic Silver Age Owlman. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. In summary, then, postmodernism can be simply described as examining the meta-narrative. The right does that as much as anyone. True. We all do postmodernism. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Yeah, so I suppose I've been using the wrong word the whole time I've been talking about it. But the idea that bothers me is that somebody else can impose meaning upon your work, and then somehow you're beholden to that meaning. You're responsible for that meaning. I mean, conversely, what meaning can you take from Piss Christ? there was like if there's any other intent than to outrage or to grandstand for attention, I can't see it. So I can say that's my response to that would be outrage. And like, what an awful thing to do to something that so many people believe so fervently in, and to do it for your own means seems really selfish. But if he come to me and said, no, I had a completely different interpretation, I'd have to call bullshit. I'd have to say, okay, but and this is where it gets muddy. I'd say to him, there's no way you could not be aware that what you were doing was going to offend billions of people. You can't throw your hands up and say, well, I'm so surprised people got angry at me portraying their Messiah in this way, their chosen one in this way. When, other cultures, if you portray their chosen one in a certain way, what happens to them. Charlie Hebdo. But then if somebody comes to me and says your work is racist and it offended this group of people and there's no way you could not have known about it, I would be throwing my hands up saying, I don't know how you saw that. That's not what I intended to do. So I suppose, again, like anything, and this so often it comes down to the individual, you can't, whitewash or paint everybody the same brush. You can't sort of say this is all the one thing. It comes down to the individual intent, human nature. So often when I have these little crises that I try to work through, it always comes down to the same thing. Everybody's individual, is human nature. If it wasn't for human nature, if it wasn't for, we'd be in some sort of paradise, but it's that individual selfishness and that individual way of perceiving itself as the individual that leads to these things that I think cause these problems. So there is no clean answer, but I appreciate Jason's correction in the chat there of postmodernism versus deconstructivism. That's something I'll have to keep in mind talking about it going forward. All right, that was pretty deep, one of these streams. Thanks for everybody for turning up, all 2 of you that are still watching. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you same time tomorrow, and we got 9 done today. Let's see if we can get 10 done tomorrow. Thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you soon.